Sorry guys, I didn't know I was on mute. Okay, so if you have any question, so be unmuting and ask your question. Normally I'm on another tab, so I can't see maybe the in-call messages or when you raise up your hand. So you just unmute and ask your question. Yeah, I hope you can see my screen clearly.
Yes.
Okay. So the agenda for today, I will discuss what is Python, why Python is popular, features of Python, applications of Python, and examples of companies using Python. That is the real world companies that are using Python for their front end or back end purposes. Then why we use the Jupyter notebook. So the Anaconda is integrated with sorry, the Anaconda is integrated with the Jupyter notebook, which is basically the editor that we'll be using to write our codes, debugging, or even doing our data analysis tasks. So what is Python? And Python, I usually say that Python this is a gift that keeps on giving, and the more you understand Python, the more you can do in the 21st century. So after this course, you'll be adding another language into your CV, and with this, you will be a global citizen. By this, I mean that you can be able to work anywhere in the world, remotely, full time, because these are skills. Remember nowadays, everyone is saying skills over paper. Yeah. So Python is an interpreted, object-oriented, and high-level programming language with dynamic semantics. That is, this is a language that allows growth of information over time. And when we talk about dynamic processes, in physics, we were usually saying that these are processes that have constant change. It doesn't stay uh, like it keeps on changing, yeah. And it's used. This is a language that is used for general purpose programming, like it's everywhere, and people use it on daily basis, knowingly and unknowingly. So the person who invented Python is Guido van Rossum, and he released Python in it was around February 20th, 1991. And Guido van Rossum was a fan of a comedy sketch series called Monty Python Circus. This is an old BBC show from yeah, it was an old BBC show called Monty Python Flying Circus. And the reason why he decided to call the language Python, you know, when people like when they hear Python, they usually relate it to a large snake. Yeah? So he decided to call the language Python because sources has it that he wanted a language, he wanted a name that was short and slightly mysterious, and this is why he called Python Python. And by the way, the most important features or an amazing feature about Python is that it's actually one person's work. And usually we have programming languages developed and published by corporation. For example, we have the Tableau Corporation releasing the Tableau software. We have Oracle releasing MySQL. MySQL is used for database management. We have R released by RStudio. So you see, Python is one man's work. And the speed at which Python has grown is as a result of continuous work of 1,000 developers. And as we continue, we will mention that Python is an open source language, meaning that even you yourself, you can be able to add to its add to its growth. Yeah, basically you can add to its development by maybe writing some codes or maybe developing softwares that are Python related. We have The next tab, so the next slide is why Python is popular. Yes, Okumu?
Yeah, thank you, Maureen. Sorry for interruption this early. Just maybe to make it more interactive with you,
Yes,
before we go further, I heard you mention about backend and frontend.
yes,
I have a lot of passion for IT, but with little background in IT.
yes.
Would you kindly just explain a little about it?
The back end and the front end.
Yeah.
When we talk about the back end, we usually talk about the server side of a website or an application. Yeah, like uh, these are these are part of the an application that you cannot see and interact with. Yeah, for example, I believe that you all have WhatsApp, the application WhatsApp. Yeah, let me not use a platform, but the word application, the WhatsApp itself of or the Facebook itself. Uh, you cannot see the background, like the codings that were used to generate that software. So what we are able to interact with is the front end now, where maybe you can be able to click and maybe write something and share it with someone. That's now the front end, where you interact with, where the user interacts with. That's the front end, what you see. Yeah. So the back end, these are something that you cannot see. Yeah, you cannot see, and uh, basically these are the back end of the WhatsApp allows you to operate and cannot be accessed by a user. So the only person who can access the backend of WhatsApp, they are the developers at Meta. I believe WhatsApp and Facebook are from the same company. So developers at Meta can be able to interact with the WhatsApp backend, but for us, we're able to interact with the front end now, where you can send, share, or maybe react to something. So all these features are programmed in the backend. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we were at why Python is popular. Why Python is popular. Python is popular because first of all it's easy to learn. Meaning that the time you need to learn Python is shorter than for many other languages, and it's also beginner friendly. It's also easier to write Python codes. There is somewhere we mentioned that it is a high-level programming language, meaning that it is closer to human language. And mind you, we usually use the English language to code Python. It's free, yeah. The language is free. It's easy to obtain, install, and deploy Python. And basically, Python is maintained by the Python Software Foundation, and these are a non-profit membership organization. Uh, and the organization is devoted to develop and improve and expand the language. So this you don't need to pay for it, you just need to download and start using it in your local machine. So there are other programming languages that you need to purchase. Yeah, you purchase the software for you to be able to use it. So Python is free to use. It has a wide range of applications, like it open more doors than any other programming languages, from web development, yeah, We have game development, machine learning, and other, and also it forms the basis of our course, which is data analysis. So Python has a wide range of usage. It can be used to create applications, web applications. It has some frameworks like Django and Flask. All this will be familiar with you as you continue. Library support, like in Python, we say that uh, under the sun there is nothing new. So we have testers, and Stack Overflow has the largest community where you can get help whenever you need. Yeah, and also it has lots of libraries from data preprocessing libraries up to machine learning. Yeah, and in 1999, when Guido van Rossum was defining the goals of Python, so he wanted a language that was easy and powerful. He wanted to create a language that was an open source, an open source, meaning that everyone can access it without paying. And he wanted to create a language that is understandable as plain English. And 20 plus year, we can see that this his intentions have been fulfilled. Yeah, because the language is easy, free. Yeah, we have communities and testers where we can always get help when maybe your code runs into errors. So the next thing, let's check on features of Python. Features of Python. Features of Python. My apologies. I think the picture, the image I downloaded doesn't have much pixel. Kind of blurred, but I'll read it out so that you can be able to follow up. So features of Python. These are just the characteristics of Python. Features are similar to characteristics. And Python, usually, I've mentioned that these are language that is easy to learn and use. Yeah. And we've seen that the code is understandable as plain English. And also, Python being a high-level language, meaning that it is closer to the human language, the way we are talking. Yeah. Also, later on in machine learning, you notice that you can analyze text data. Yeah, it's not only the numeric data we analyze in Python. We also analyze text, speeches. Uh, we all have heard of what is it called? Behavioral science. Yeah, like how people are reacting. Yeah, and nowadays we're talking about the OpenCV, where we can be able to detect. Are they the motion detectors? Huh? Have you ever, you guys, have you ever watched a movie? This the scientific movies where um you can like the detectives are able to tell if someone is lying with just by use of I don't know, they use some device. Yeah. So we have a way we have frameworks in Python that can be able to analyze that data. That's also data. Yeah, how people are behaving. You detect the facial expressions and all that. That's data. So it's also an expressive language. It's an expressive language, and Python provides us with a myriad of constructs that helps us to focus on the solution rather than the syntax. Yeah? So you'll notice that when you start coding, you'll usually be focusing on the output, the output that you're getting, rather than maybe the syntaxes. The syntaxes are the codes. Codes are similar to the syntax, and this is one of the outstanding Python features that tell you why you should learn Python. It's also free and open source. I think we've discussed this. It's freely available. You just need to download it from the official website and can be able to use it. A high level programming language, I will mention that. Python is a interpreted language. If you are familiar with any languages like C++ or Java, you must first of all compile the language. So compilation, this is where you first of all check the errors. But in Python, there is no need to compile it. You just need to run your Python code without worrying about linking to any library and other few things. And also, by it being an interpreted language, it's very easy to debug your code. By debugging, I mean that since each code is executed line by line, you can be able to detect errors whenever they occur. In other programming languages, you need to write all the program. Basically, they are procedural. You just need to write all the program, maybe a 50 lines of code. Then first of you run, then you run into errors. It's kind of frustrating. But in Python, you execute each line by you execute your code line by line, meaning that you can be able to trace even the errors. It's object oriented. Meaning that it focuses on objects and combined data and functions. Contrary to a procedural oriented language which revolves around functions. We'll discuss functions when we are coding, and basically Python now combines both features, that is procedural oriented, where you follow certain procedure. So a procedure is where maybe you are including the parentheses, the hashtags, or all that. I'm also in C++. If you're familiar with C++, we first of all have the brackets. So that's following a certain procedure. But in Python, it's more like an object oriented. We just focus on the object of, maybe if you have some data, you're focusing on the objects that are contained in that data. It's an extensible language, meaning that can be extended to other languages, meaning that if you need to write some of your Python code in other languages like C++, you can be able to extend Python to C++. Which one else? I don't know. We've discussed about the large standard library, where we have libraries for you don't have to write your own code for every single thing. We have some libraries with good documentation and you can be able to follow them. And also I've mentioned about the community where you can get help. From now on you'll be consulting the Stack Overflow. We have others like the Cargo, for your learning purposes and also for debugging purposes. We have a GUI support, GUI programming support, meaning a GUI stands for graphical user interface. And we have some libraries in Python for you to be able to work with the graphical user interface applications. We have the Tincta. I think Anaconda comes with Tincta. It has also the PyQt, and some desktop applications have been built using Python. Yeah, I don't know if anyone has a question regarding the features of Python.
Not really.
Faith?
Question.
Yes, you have a question.
I have no question.
So applications of Python, where Python is applied, or some applications that have been built using Python. So we have some applications like the web applications, and Python offers many choices for web development. Yeah? We have frameworks such as Django and Pyramid, and mind you, Django Instagram is built on Django. So for those who will be interested in maybe proceeding to machine learning and uh, um, I think the career path for what you are doing now, it can lead you to maybe becoming a machine learning expert, a data engineer, a data analyst. So, but basically, if you're interested in becoming a data scientist, this is where now, after analyzing the data, we usually create models in order for you not to maybe go back again in maybe analyzing the data from. We have steps that we usually carry out when you're creating, what is it called, when you're modeling. So for data analysis, you just visualize the data, create the dashboards, give insights, maybe do some presentation in a medium company. But going further, after visualizing and presenting, now we have this is where now data scientist comes in, where you model in order for you not to go back again to analyzing, visualizing like that. And in the data science field now, we have, after creating the model, you can deploy the model. And this is where now we come to creating the web applications now. So we have two major frameworks that uses Python for model deployment. Model deployment basically is creating a web application. So we have the Django Flask, and also we have another one called Pyramid. But nowadays, uh, life has been made easier. So there are some other frameworks like Streamlit. You just have the code, um, just integrate the code with uh, you uh, just install the framework Streamlit and just deploy your application. So we have a Python being applied in creating the web applications. We have a desktop GUI applications. I've mentioned some like the PyQt, and basically a desktop GUI application, maybe without maybe using Python. Some of the applications we have in our desktop, like I think when you go to the Windows Start button, you can be able to see the applications that you have, like the recycle bin, uh, which other one, the applications that you have. Even Google is an applications is an application that you have in your desktop. Which other one? The applications. So mine, I have some that I work with in Web3, like the Postman. All these are the applications that you can be able to see in your desktop. Now there are those that are created using Python. I don't know how, I'm not sure which one was used to create the recycle bin, but I believe Python has been used to create Google. Yeah. We have others. I know there are a lot of them, even in your desktop. Mozilla Firefox. All these are the applications. So there are some that have been used to have been created using Python, and we have some frameworks that are used in creating the GUIs. We have the PyQt, the Kivy, we have the PySide, the widgets. All these have been used to create platforms like I think GTK Plus have been created using the platforms that I've mentioned. We have Python being used in creating the image processing applications. I've given an example in maybe we have a framework in Python in machine learning called OpenCV. And if you're interested in AI, there are those devices that are used to detect the facial expressions of individuals. So they use the Python framework called OpenCV. We have others, I've forgotten some. We have enterprise application, which are linked to business applications. So Python have been used to create some. So in our country, we have a business application like I think we have the CRM systems, the CRM, the ERP systems. So some of these have been created using Python. We have a platform like Triton, which is a 3-tier and a high-level general purpose application which is used to create the ERP and other e-commerce systems. We have the 3-card applications. I'm not familiar with the 3-card. I think the computer-aided designs, yeah, they are mostly used by I don't know if it's electrical engineers. The card, yeah, the 3D card. We have an example of the 3D card, the Fandango, and you can check it. And maybe tomorrow do some research on the Fandango. The Fandango has been created entirely using Python. We have a Python being used to create a software development. I mentioned that we have Python for programming, and we have Python being used to build, control, and managing, and also testing, and many other ways in software development. So we have a platform like Scone, which is used to build control. We have Apache and other like the building, the build bot, which mostly is automated continuously to be able to do some testing when you're doing the software development. We have scientific and numeric. Scientific and numeric, this now where we talk about Python is widely used in scientific and numeric computing. We have libraries like the SciPy, the Pandas. Yeah, Pandas will be using it for data analysis and modeling. SciPy is used for mathematics, and you want to compute anything in Python, you use the SciPy module. So those are some of the applications that have been created using Python. We have examples of companies using Python. Examples of companies using Python up to date. And I'll mention some few. We have a Google. I'll start with Google. And Google has been a supporter of Python from nearly the very beginning. And in the beginning, the founders of Google made the decision of using Python where they can and C++ where they must. So this meant that basically they'll use C++ where they required memory control, maybe basically where they needed a low latency. and Python enabled for ease of maintenance and relatively fast delivery. We mentioned that writing and maintaining Python codes is very easy. So they used Python up to date, for ease of maintenance, of their website, and also Python has it's kind of delivers faster. And then we have another company like the Facebook, and the production team at Facebook, they are exceptionally keen on Python, and this makes it the third most popular language at the social media giant. So the ease of using Python libraries means that the production engineers don't have to write or maintain as much code, and this allows them to focus on getting improvements live. We have IG, Instagram uses Python, and I've mentioned on the Django framework, and around 2016, the Instagram engineering team boasted that they were running the world's largest deployment of the Django web framework, and the Django is entirely written in Python. And this likely still holds true up to date, as we've seen some of the software engineers at Instagram saying about their production using Python mostly. Yeah, and we have Spotify. I think Spotify and Netflix. Spotify, Netflix, and we have another one, Amazon. Yeah, they usually use Python for data analysis. So we know Netflix is they stream videos, is it videos or movies? Yeah, we have Netflix, we have Spotify. Spotify is a music streaming giant and is a huge proponent of Python. And basically, Spotify uses the language primarily for data analysis and backend services. And I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that. I'll give an example using Google and YouTube. These are from one company here. So when you Google something and you're watching a video in YouTube, uh, they usually recommend something that you've been watching or something that you like Googling about, on their ads or even in their recommended videos, something that you love watching. And this because they've been able to analyze your data, or maybe maybe feeds. They've been able to tell that this person usually likes pizza. So we have in machine learning we have the creation of the recommender systems, which is entirely written in Python. So they are able to create recommendations based on the recommender systems that they are using in their backend. So even on Spotify, the next music will be recommended based on what. Sorry, sorry for that. So the recommendation basically is what they've been able to analyze from their backend services, from the recommender systems that they have. We have Netflix. Netflix also rely on Python to power its data analysis on the server side, that is on their backend. So if you love watching comedy, so the next video that will be recommended will be on the comedy. Even on Amazon, so what you usually like maybe purchasing, for example, if you like maybe purchasing phones, once they have maybe the recommended product will be what maybe you like purchasing. Basically, this is the power of data analysis on their back end. We have Dropbox. Dropbox, this is a cloud-based storage system which uses Python in its desktop client. And research shows that Guido van Rossum he was working. I think he was working at Dropbox in around 2012, yeah? And I think he joined Dropbox under the condition that he will be an engineer, not even a lead or a manager or a CEO. So in his first year, he was able to help bring about the ability to share data stores with other users within the Dropbox community. So the way Dropbox is coded in its server side made the company realize that Python is very efficient in creating the APIs, which were then coded with Python, and it helped the Dropbox engineer to use the Python in their server-side coding. Reddit, maybe before I go to Reddit, Uber uses Python in a similar way to Spotify, that is on data analysis, data visualization side. And we have Reddit. Reddit, this is a website that have around 542, have a billion visitors every month, yeah. And it was initially coded in a language called Lisp, but around 2005, yeah, the site was recorded in Python, and the primary reason for the change was that Python has a wider range of code libraries and was more developmentally flexible. Yeah. So any question on the companies using Python?
Yes, hello, Maureen.
Yes, hello.
Yep. Not a question on the companies, but previously you mentioned about modeling. That like, would you like elaborate something on data modeling or statistical models?
Data modeling or statistical models.
Yeah.
Okay, so uh, so the data modeling part. This first of all, the process of creating the visual representation of ether. Yeah. So you've mentioned that you are a data clerk. So I believe that basically, can you call you a data? So you usually deal with data entry.
Yeah.
So there is that data, and in order for you to go up to data modeling, yeah. So there are some steps that we follow. So first of all, we have data collection. You've collected the data, so you must clean that data, yeah, before you go to data modeling. So let's assume we've cleaned the data, we've analyzed the data, yeah, we've analyzed the data, you've visualized the data now, you've done all that, what we call data pre-processing, exploring the data. Now it reaches a time that you need, in order for you not to go back to analyzing the data or cleaning the data, you want to automate that process. Now this is where data modeling comes in. So there are some statistical models that you can use to help you anytime maybe you've collected that, you have that data, you can just feed it to that model and it brings you the desired output that you want. So we have the models now, the statistical models that will help you analyze further, maybe checking the accuracy. So statistical models usually help us to make the hypothesis. So by hypothesis, I mean the decisions to be taken. Yeah? For example, if you are dealing with sales data, yeah. So up to maybe you decide which statistical models should use. Is it the linear, the logistic regression? Uh, uh, Maybe I can just mention this at this level. So we have maybe linear regression when you want to predict the house prices. Yeah. So when you have the house price, you want to predict the price of a house, of a certain house, given this house has maybe 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, maybe the square. I'm just mentioning. So there are those models that you select based on your problem. Is it a classification problem? Do you want to check whether the employee left the company or not? Yeah? Whether maybe a customer will come back for your product for the e-commerce companies. Yeah. So there are those statistical models based on that problem. So in modeling, you must know the problem statement. Is it a classification or a regression? Is it a continuous or so this is in machine learning. So when modeling, basically we model in order for us to automate the processes that I've mentioned, like the data cleaning, data analysis. Yeah. So you just want to have your data, the maybe 20,000 rows, you just feed it to a model and yeah, like that. Is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear. So will we at some point look at the statistical models on this, or that's a different?
Yeah, that's a different. That's in machine learning. That's in machine learning. So I forgot to share the course content for this. So for
Yeah.
this one, I'll share the course content so that you can be familiar with it. So that's in machine learning. The modeling part is on machine learning.
Okay. So do
Yeah.
you have?
This one is data analysis. Data analysis will be analyzing the data. So when you want to
Oh,
automate that process, now we have machine learning. It's very interesting as you move forward. You'll see that.
okay.
Yeah. So we have why we use the Jupyter Notebook. I mentioned that this is the editor that you will be using. Yeah. And the Jupyter Notebook comes with the Anaconda distribution. We call it the Anaconda distribution because it has a lot of applications. We have applications when you like the data viz. We have PyCharm for web development. We will navigate all those tomorrow. Yeah. So why we use Jupyter Notebook? These are a server client application. Yeah. So now Okumu, you were asking about the back end and the front end. Yeah? So when we start coding, we will be working at the back end. Yeah? All the codes, all the syntaxes for any programming languages are written in the back end. Yeah. So the front end now is for example, the front end is when, for example, we decide to create a data analysis application. Now the one that you want other people to interact with. Yeah? Remember, not everyone is familiar with writing the codes. Yeah? So the server client side that we'll be working on for data analysis will be using the Jupyter Notebook. And this is a notebook that will allow us to edit our code, run our code, and it runs through a web browser. You don't need any internet to be able to use the Jupyter Notebook that you've installed locally. But we have other versions of Jupyter Notebook that will require you to use them in real time. You'll need some internet to be able to interact with them, like the Google Colab. I'll also show you how you'll have you'll navigate. Yeah, you'll have a user interface tour on the Google Colab. The Jupyter Notebook is easy to use. This is the reason it's usually preferred for data analysis. It's easy to use. I think someone mentioned that when you compare the platform where you usually write Python codes and the R codes, the Python codes can, if it was in a competition, Python codes could have win. You see, for the R, I don't know if any of you have ever interacted with R. So the R Studio is just it's kind of a blank. Is the like a blackboard. Yeah, it's like a blackboard. You just write the codes. But for the Jupyter, it's kind of arranged, yeah? Line by line. You can be able to see your output. Yeah? You know, for R, you must scroll up to like you scroll downwards in order for you to see the output for your code. So for the Jupyter, you run the code, the output is just right below the code. Flexibility, a Jupyter Notebook is flexible. You can be able to share it as a HTML file, a PDF file. It's very flexible. Then it can be integrated with a number of platforms. We have some platforms using the Jupyter Notebook. It has been integrated with Cargo. I've mentioned one that Google has, the Google Colab. We have others for other organizations. They just integrate it for learning purposes. If, for example, you enroll for a Python course in maybe in a learning management system for these are big companies in US, so they require you to use their integrated platform. So you'll not be coding in your local machine, you'll be coding in the platform that they've defined. Yeah? So the Jupyter Notebook can be integrated with a number of platforms. This is the end of my presentation unless somebody has a question. Any question?
Yes, Maureen, thank you for the presentation. You mentioned somewhere about Java.